law is annoying depending on the side you want to find. So for example, if you want to find side A, you're going to have to use this formula over here. Yeah, it's a long formula. If you want to find side B, you're going to be using this. And if you want to find side C, you're going to be using this version of the cosine law. So remember, we have our triangles, we have our angles. So this is angle B, which means across from it is side B. Angle C is here, which means across is side C. Angle A is up here, which means at the bottom we have side A. So you'll probably have this given to you for your test. Given it to you because you have 3 different things to remember, and that's not fun at all. And then when you're finding the angle, all you're doing is basically taking the 3 guys we took up top and just isolating for cos A, cos B, and cos C. So to find angle A, all you're doing is taking b squared plus c squared minus a squared and dividing it by 2bc. Cos B, you have your formula, and cos C, you have your formula as well. However, when it comes to cosine law, there are specific scenarios where you can use it. For example, in this case, when you have measurements of 2 sides and 1 angle. So basically what this means is when you have your triangle for the first one, you're given these 2 sides. So let's say this is A, B, and C. You have 8, 10, and 35. So you can only use cosine law when you have 2 sides and an angle in the middle sandwiched between the 2 sides.
So when you have 2 sides and an angle between 2 sides.
Yep.
You couldn't do it if you had the side A and C.
Yeah, so if 8 was here, you're not able to use cosine law. But what law would you be able to use instead? Sine. So remember, cosine law you only use when you have 2 sides, and in the middle of those 2 sides you have that angle in between. Or the last thing is when you have all 3 sides given to you. Those are the only 2 scenarios where you use cosine law. Scenarios. So for the first one, we're going to be given 2 sides and a contained angle, and we want to find the measurements of side C to the nearest centimeter. So because we're finding side C, which of the 3 cosine law formulas are we going to be using? C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared, right, or something? Minus 2AB times cos of C, I think that's what it is. I'll have it up. So we're going to use C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times cos of my angle C. So what's A and what's B? Which one is side A?
Side A is 7.
Okay. Which means 5 is side B. And cos C, which is my angle C, is 43 degrees. So I'm going to take 7 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7 times 5 times cos of 43. So what is 7 squared? 49. 5 squared? 25. What's 2 times 7 times 5? 70. So to make it easier, we're going to add these 2 together first. So what's 49 plus 25? 74. So now what you're going to do is, if your calculator should be able to handle this all, so you're going to do 74 minus 70 times cos of 43. And it should give you a number. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest centimeter. So our answer is 22.8. But remember, guys, what do we have on the left side? Is my c still squared?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do I get rid of that squared?
Divide.
Square root.
Oh.
So what's the square root of whatever answer you got? Nope. It's higher than that. Square root of 22.8. Jade? 4.7. Oh, I thought I said 1 point. Sorry. 4.7. And if you round it to the nearest centimeter, it's what? What?
Sir, you said that you would give us like a little kind of like the cheat sheet, right? The test.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have it written up on the board or projected on the board. So C is 5 centimeters. Yep. Because in our original formula, it's C squared on the left side. And what we got on the right side, we didn't square root yet. So in order to get rid of the squared from the left side, you need to square root both sides.
Sir, you're gonna post the video up, right?
Yeah.
Because I lost it. I don't turn eventually. It always does.
Okay, for our next one now. So we have given all three sides. So I want to find angle R. So can someone tell me what side P is, side Q is, and side R is? Which one is what? Emma.
Side P is 5.9 km.
Okay.
Side Q is 6.2. And side R is 3.2.
Perfect.
Both of them km.
So now we have to find our side R. Sine R, angle R. So I need to find sine of R. So in order to find sine R, we have to use one of the angle formulas for finding the angles. So because this is not written in ABC, it might be confusing for some of you. But when it comes to the angle, the subtraction part at the end is always the angle you're finding, or the side of the angle you're finding. So you're going to take P squared plus Q squared minus R squared.
How did you figure out that we using after the formula?
So whenever we're finding the angle for sine, that last part, so we're finding sine R, right? You know how most of them have, like, say if we have cos A, it's B squared plus C squared minus A squared divided by 2BC. So this last part at the end always corresponds to the angle side, which is why when I'm finding sine R, I know that I have to do P squared plus Q squared minus R squared because we're finding angle R. So, yep. So if we're finding sine Q, it would be R squared plus P squared minus Q squared. And you would just do the same thing with everything else. Yep. So when you're finding the angle, that last squared is always the side that corresponds to its angle. Minus, yep. Cos, my bad.
Okay, that's why.
Oops. Cos.
Yeah. I think so.
It's cosine that I put sine by accident.
It's okay. It's
Should-
not. It's not a Monday.
It's
It
cos.
feels like a Monday.
Or three sides. Yeah. So P is 5.9. So I have 5.9 squared plus Q, which is 6.2 squared, minus R, which is 3.2 squared, divided by 2 times P, which is 5.9 times 6.2. So what you're going to do first is you're going to do everything in the numerator first. So you can actually do it all in one shot, or you can do 5.9 squared, write that number, 6.2 squared, write that number, and then 3.2 squared and write that number. It's up to you. Or you can just do it all in one shot if you feel like you're comfortable doing it that way. If anyone has an answer, feel free to share. Ashton? Okay, anyone else get 63.01? You got it? Okay. So our numerator is 63.01. And can someone tell me what my denominator is? 2 times 5.9 times 6.2.
Sorry. So rounding to the first. Oh,
Yes. Yep. Point 1.6. Okay. Why am I writing sine all the time? Oh my gosh. So now I have to find the angle. So what's that button you have to press on your calculator to find the angle? Yeah. So angle R. So you can either do this one of two ways. You can either take 63.01 divided by 73.16 and come up with a decimal, or you can do second function cos and just leave that as a fraction. And it should give you an answer still. Okay, let's see if everyone else got that.
I got it. I mean, I didn't get it, but I got it pretty good. I got to the codes are equals. I didn't. It is longer, right?
Not much.
Okay.
Wait, sir.
Yep.
I thought 30.5.
And then we do angle. Yes.
So because we're rounding it to the nearest degree, what do I have to round that up to? 31.
I got the addition part right. You didn't even finish.
So angle R is 31 degrees. That's it.
Negative 1.
Then you just
Okay, last one. So word
That was so
problem.
funny.
Ooh. Yeah, the bane of everyone's existence is word problems. So Cassandra's cell phone detects two transmission antennas. One antenna is 7 kilometers away and the other is 13 kilometers away from her position. And the two antennas appear to be separated by an angle of 80 degrees. How far apart to the nearest kilometer are the two antennas?
We have to find D.
So we're finding side D.
Got it.
So
And how do we find side D?
I'll show you now.
I'm joking. You're still.
So for side D, we're going to have D squared is equal to, obviously, E squared plus F squared. Minus 2EF times cos of D. Yes, you had a question? So how do I know how to use it?
Yeah, it's always the one that you want to find.
Yeah.
And then you
So for the missing side, you'll always notice that the only thing that's ever related to the missing side is always just its angle. So you see how everything is E and F for the most part, and then you have cos D at the end? That's the only difference. So if you're finding angle F, if you're finding side F, it would be D squared plus E squared minus 2DE.
And this would be the same equation that we would use, just switching it up depending
Yep.
on what side or angle we want to
That's
find.
it.
Got it. Sorry, it took me a while.
So what is side E?
Side E. I don't know.
Yeah, 7. Thank you, Omar. And what's side F? 13. So 7 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 7 times 13 times cos D. And what's the angle of D? 80. So times cos 80. So again, 7 squared we know is 49. What's 13 to the power of 2? 169. Thank you, Omer. And what's 2 times 7 times 13? What would that give us?
2,262. Or is that weird? That's what I got.
2,262?
I did 2 times 7 times 13.
2 times 7 times 13?
I'm gonna get. I'm gonna
It's 182. You probably did.
I totally did, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. So again, add the first two together. So 49 plus 169, which is 218.
31.6.
So now what you're going to do on your calculator is do 218 minus 182 times cos of 80.
How did I get?
Yep. So D squared is equal to 186 point, we'll just say 39. And in order to isolate for D squared, yes, Jade? Square root it. So if I square root 186.39, what do I get? Elisa, what did you get?
14.
Yeah. So we get 13.65. So if we round it up, we round up to 14. So therefore, the antennas are 14 kilometers apart.